Thanks very much, Wendy, and Andrew, for this opportunity. Yeah, welcome to my world, which I wish was as an artisan. That hasn't been my role for a number of years, so I'm now fully immersed as a forestry consultant in forest certification, particularly in Australia. So we're, just as a brief intro, we're a small specialist consulting firm focused on certification systems for the forest and forest products industry. Yeah, so just by way of overview, we'll be looking in brief at both management systems, if you like. So forest management, we'll be looking at forest certification and how by the way of third-party evidence it gives credible standing against national and international criteria that we are managing our forests responsibly and sustainably. And then we move on to forest products chain of custody certification, which relates to the things that are coming out of the forest and then moving through production, manufacturing, processing to end users. So forest certification globally has, I suppose you can say it's gained some traction, but it has a very long way to go, as you can see by the figures above. Using figures like this can be very confusing, as you know, they're probably grossed up for the FAO's figures, covering things that we wouldn't be able to process, you know, trees that are very small or shrubs, to you know, things that are definitely in areas of conservation. So in terms of what's currently noted as being certified by both major organisations, that's PEFC and FSC, there's 560 million hectares across the world, but that will include plantation as well as natural forest. So this slide is indicative only. It's from some figures produced in 2014, published in 2017, but I believe the relativity is probably still pretty much the same, with the wealthy producers having most of their forests certified, and then the 2/3 in developing world a fair way behind. Realistically, these processes are very expensive, and there are a lot of hurdles, and not least of which is governance at a national level. And so some of these problematic places will have difficulty achieving certification. So I believe that, you know, there's a responsibility on us to provide credible ramps to achieve something that would be a pathway to certification that's achievable for these places, so that we can have a better handle on, you know, global sustainability. So as mentioned at the beginning, there's two main forest certification brands, let's say. One that's very well known is FSC, or the Forest Stewardship Council. It's well represented in many nations and provides a platform for the sustainable outcomes of forest management. The PEFC, or the Program for Endorsement of Forest Certification Systems, provides an international cover and recognition system. While it does have standards in its own right, most especially for chain of custody, it also provides guidance for national accreditation of forest management systems, which in themselves are very rigorous processes, so that countries can have their national system developed and endorsed, and then those systems, while they're able to carry a national brand, as does Responsible Wood, which is the Australian system recognised by PEFC, those systems are also able to carry the PEFC brand material and make PEFC claims as well. So forest management certification, the rigour associated with it is I would say, onerous because it begins at a national level. So the development of national schemes involves a very wide and diverse range of stakeholders. It is a lengthy process as it has to go through multiple iterations and stages to get to a point of acceptance and publication as a standard. And then there's the process of accrediting certification bodies. These are the independent companies that provide the auditing against the standard of the forest management systems that are developed by companies, people like ourselves, for land owners, forest owners, and chain of custody systems. To provide uniformity in approach and credibility in outcome, forest management certifications very much linked, at least the systems, to a management system approach, and particularly the ISO systems of management, so that you have policy and commitment, planning and implementation, and then monitoring, auditing and review. And that's very much our life here. We are very much involved in all those processes, and in terms of developing systems for clients, but also in terms of the governance of the systems themselves. Forest management certification has an increased emphasis on engagement with our communities, commencing with our workplace. So it's very important that in a workplace, people, number one, go home safely at night. So we commit to the laws and regulations, but it has to be in action. We can't just tick a box. And forest certification is definitely not about ticking boxes. It's about performance and compliance with the things that are required of us. And we sign off to international treaties and conventions. And in this sense, workers' rights and employment conditions under the ILO are of particular importance, and not least of which is the ability for people to meet together to define their working conditions in association with their employer. And then we have a continual process of stakeholder engagement, and it's regardless of which certification brand or system that you're working under. The community relations, neighbour relations are all fundamental to the work that we do. So while there ever is a big picture approach to stakeholder engagement, perhaps when you're developing a system, you would have that out for stakeholder input. But there's operational and daily relationships with your neighbours, with contractors, with suppliers, with others. And that's very important. And that schematic just gives some indication of the variety of stakeholders that we would be dealing with. So when we think of forest management certification, we're probably not thinking of the management structures of reporting, monitoring. We're thinking of environmental values, impacts, biodiversity, forest productive capacity, high conservation particularly, and now carbon, and most definitely cultural values, which would include Indigenous values as well as values of later European settlement. So I suppose the forest certification umbrella provides an oversight and provides then an opportunity for the independent third-party auditing against national and international standards. So while all that is fine embedded in a standard, it's actually implementing it operationally that becomes the major task. And that's what we are dealing with on a daily basis and assisting our clients to meet and meet those criteria and improve their outcomes. So operationally, Tasmania, I will use that as a case in point. We're definitely here. We're living in a very beautiful part of the world. If I could put you out my window, you would see Bruny Island and the Channel Waterway. But nevertheless, we are in a place where we have a very highly regulated forest system. And we are all subject to our operations being under the Forest Practices Code, which is a dynamic system governed by the Forest Practices Authority, who engage and employ some highly trained and valued specialists in a whole range of professions, from ecologists that cover from the ground flora through to, wedge-tailed eagle specialists, covering off all our threatened species, to geophysicists, archaeologists. We are subject to a high degree of rigor and planning before we can do what those machines are doing in that tall, wet forest. I won't go into more detail. Needless to say that we do a lot of planning before we can start, and then it's those plans and operational outcomes, as well as the systems that are managing them, that all get audited. So we're certified, and here we go. The logs are going out of the forest, and they then, if they are from a certified forest, those logs would be claimed as 100% either PEFC Responsible Wood certified, or if the forest was an FSC Forest Management Unit, as FSC 100%. Those logs then go to be processed and enter a chain of custody. And here, our little firm manages a very large group chain of custody, and we have, I put these images on because they would be perhaps considered a signature of the beautiful things that come out of a forest. And that's made by our artisans, but we go from our artisans to, the big end of town, if you like, which are, larger sawmills producing both appearance grade and construction grade material for the industry Australia-wide, and that is common to us across the nation. So chain of custody for forest products is from, once the forest is certified, forest products then need to enter in at the first point of change of ownership or management into a chain of custody, and the chain of custodies need to be unbroken. So each business that's handling the wood from the point of the sawmill to a manufacturer, and then perhaps some further processing before it gets to the consumer or the end user, needs to be in a chain of custody. They can either be a standalone single system for a business. It could be a multi-site with common ownership, or contracted businesses to a central body. Our group scheme here, Fine Timber Tasmania, is a not-for-profit that licenses users to use a system that we've developed. And it's from, as I said before, from artisans to, larger sawmills supplying products to the nation. So essentially, a chain of custody is taking wood from the forest through the processing to the end consumer, as I've mentioned. Without giving you lots of boring detail, it's a rigorous system where we need to identify the source or the origin of product, and that would be perhaps a forestry coup, identify the supplier, the customer, a product description, a product quantity, and then certification information has to accompany the products. So that goes from the logs being delivered to the sawmill. They'll have a log docket, whether it's a digital form or a paper form. And then from there, it would go on invoicing, order forms, or other ancillary documentation, so that we can go back to the source of the product and ensure that it's from a certified forest. So the chain of custody is based on buying and selling claims. So from the forest, you buy a claim of 100%, or you buy a claim, or you buy a no claim if it's not certified product, which then has to go through another set of rigor before that could enter the chain of custody, still having no claim. But we're mainly focused on material that's come out of a forest that's certified, and that has a claim of 100%. Then that comes into a chain of custody, and those chains of custody can be based on 3 separate systems. One of physical separation or transfer, where you essentially buy a claim and sell the same claim. So you buy logs that are 100% certified, and you sell boards that are 100% certified, 100% PEFC responsible wood or FSC 100%. The other systems, percentage and volume credit, are where wood that's been through a due diligence system to ensure that it's not come from a controversial source has been able to enter the system without a claim. So if 100% wood comes in and then there's some controlled source or controlled wood that's come in, that will change the percentage. So as well as being able to sell product, we're now from certified forests. In the past, we weren't able to use trees from, example, shelter belts or urban forests. Under our new standard, which is almost hit the deck, there are opportunity for trees outside forests to become certified, subject to having appropriate documentation. Another opportunity that exists under chain of custody is project certification, and I've just given a quick example here of a most recent certified project, which was the fit out of the Queensland Timber Hub under the Responsible Wood Certified Project opportunity. So in winding up, if you like, you would want to know how to find certified product or find forests that are certified. The global systems provide that opportunity with search options of their databases, and Responsible Wood in Australia, which is also the home of PEFC in Australia and New Zealand, has a very good and workable website, as does the FSC. So, and if you're stuck, you can always ask us. The challenge, I believe there are many challenges both now and ahead with certification. I believe that we need more product in the marketplace, but we need a greater market pool. That's one of the main issues for us, is demand. So smaller holdings are often not certified because of the inhibiting costs unless they become part of a group opportunity. Family forests, perhaps looking at larger estates. Again, people tend to be reluctant. We have had a recent example that we've done here of probably what we would consider to be the smallest certified privately owned forest in the country that's got now certification. It's less than 150 hectares. The tall eucalypt you see in black and white on the side of the screen, that's from their forest. It's a stunning, well cared for forest that's providing multiple outcomes for a forestry family that's owned it for 3 generations and cared for it and continue to care for it. Then there are other opportunities with chain of custody, and I believe some of those are currently being addressed, but smaller sawmills tend to balk at chain of custody because, one, it seems too difficult. At the end of the day, it's not rocket science. It's just some fairly simple conventions that need to be followed. We here work with people that are still operating out of a carbon copybook, all the way through to industry that's using, the latest industry developed database, for example, TIMS or TimberSmart. We believe that there's a further opportunity with artisans. Again, cost is prohibitive. So something like a group scheme that's particularly geared or aimed at artisans, where perhaps they don't go to a full certification, providing something that is credible. Wholesalers, if you look at the different databases, there are quite a few wholesalers listed, but there's still some very big gaps in distribution. And there is going to be an increasing requirement for furniture manufacturing and the built environment, where that's going particularly into Green Star rated buildings, to have either all certified product or a percentage of certified product in the products that they're entering into the projects. And I believe that there should be opportunities for architects and specifiers, whether it's as friends of certification or some other way of being involved. And then perhaps one of the big challenges is the ongoing and new requirements coming out of the Green Building Council of Australia for certified product to go into projects. I'm done. Thank you very much.
Well, first of all, thanks very much. Thanks, Mark, for handing over, and thanks very much to Wood Solutions and Wendy and Andrew for the opportunity to be part of this session today. I must say that Mark's done the absolute majority of the heavy lifting here, which is great. So thanks very much for that, Mark. But following on from Mark's presentation, I'd like to share with you a little bit about our business and hopefully show you how important this topic of certification and sustainability is. It's absolutely critical. It's embedded in the Timberlink thinking. It's embedded in our future, and hopefully today I can take you through and show you how we look at it, how we manage it, and what it means to us for the future and the market. So thanks for that lead in, Mark. Firstly, a little bit about Timberlink. Timberlink was formed about 8 years ago when we acquired the softwood sawmills at Tarpeena and Bell Bay. We have about 500 staff, split reasonably evenly between both our Tarpeena and our Bell Bay sites. And the Timberlink business has been really committed since we started 8 years ago to a real focused effort on upgrading our facilities. We've spent over 160 million in both Bell Bay and Tarpeena. We're really moving towards being a really first-class radiata pine sawmiller. We spent recently, we've just completed a $90 million expansion of our log line at Tarpeena as a really big investment to take us into the future. As a side note, but an important note, Timberlink's managed by a company called New Forest, who may not be well known to all of you. New Forest is the world's second largest forestry investment management scheme. It's based in Sydney, and they've currently got over 6 billion assets under management in forestry management around the world. So we come from a really good, strong, stable base. Just a little bit on our two main sawmills. Our sawmill in Tarpeena, which is in South Australia, it's in the Green Triangle region, if anyone knows that area, in the southeast of South Australia. Really big site. We invested capital in that site pretty much from the outset, from purchase. We've increased capacity so far about 50% with about $130 million in spend, and we've got further investments planned and upgrades even past our new saw line that we've put on, which I'll just touch on a little bit later. And of course our Bell Bay mill, which is in Tasmania. If anyone knows that area, sort of 60-70 kilometres outside of Launceston, beautiful part of the world. Spent a lot of money on that plant too, 35 million so far approximately. And we've also got opportunities that we'll be spending more capital over the next few years as we try and expand that capacity and also introduce new products into that mill as well. I think Mark's touched on in a lot better format than this what the two certification schemes are, or the FSC, and then of course the PEFC, covered by the responsible wood scheme. And I'll move to the next slide to show you a little bit about Timberlink's commitment to those two. So basically, Timberlink holds both certification, both in FSC and in RW. We're really proud. We've worked really hard at this. We're the only certified softwood timber manufacturer to hold both. It's something that we hold really dearly to us. 100% of our production through our mills is certified. 98% of our log that we source is certified. We take about 2% of our log that Mark mentioned from smaller private woodlots, and that's controlled under our FSC and RW certification. That's actually a really important point for us. Timberlink's grounded in regional communities. We're really importantly focused on our responsibility in those areas, and we've had a long association with some private farmers in that region and continue to do so. Most important point, though, of course, is that all our logs are sourced from Australian softwood plantations. A really important point. On our solid wood products, for those of you who know us, we predominantly produce framing material and treated framing material for the residential market. In terms of our certification, our certification appears on all of our dispatch dockets for all of our manufactured timber. So if customers can request certification, but it's not an absolute necessity, as we've got that included in our current paperwork. We also ensure that our certification scope covers any third-party processes, such as we don't do all our treated timber is not all done internally. We have some third-party processes that add value to our untreated product. We make sure that that's captured under our certification scheme. And it's important to note that it's particularly in recent times that we're getting more and more requests from the market, specifically for certified timber. So we're really pleased that that's happening, and we're pleased that we can meet that market requirement. Just wanted to make an interesting point about our wood chip. If you run a sawmill, you produce products that are not just framing, and wood chip it comes out of our sawmill, of course. Our wood chip is actually certified to either certification, and this is important. It's placed us in a really responsible and a really strong position to be able to sell our wood chip around the world. And Japan is our #1 export market. They're very, very sensitive to product certification. In fact, we're the largest exporter of radiata pine wood chip in the world, and 100% of our wood chip is FSC certified. So just an important point to make, that we think about everything that we're producing and everything that's coming out of our saw line, not just the high grade structural product. Just a point of note, we've held our FSC certification for about 7 years, and our responsible wood certification for nearly 9. And as Mark touched on, it can be quite daunting. There are some rigorous controls around how we maintain this certification. We are absolutely focused on it, controlling our fibre input. A big part of the process is electronic inventory control right throughout the process. We have a very exhaustive internal and external audit program. The external audits are conducted annually, and backing that up, and part of the FSC and PEFC certification is having a really robust corrective action system. So if issues are raised at audit, which they will be, we have the system in place to be able to act, change, and close out those actions really quickly with a real sense of urgency. A lot of focus on that area. It's a big process to manage, but we're proud that we're really involved in it, and we're proud that we can produce these outputs. And speaking of outputs, I thought I would show a project in point, a case in point, to show that chain of custody. This was a small but neat terraced house development in Bowden in Adelaide, just on the fringe of the Adelaide CBD. It was actually the first residential project to receive 6-star Green Star rating from the Green Building Council. Defence Housing Australia was a developer, or the client. Palumbo Builders, a local builder, built the structure, and Timberlink supplied the certified timber. There was a requirement for that project to have fully certified timber supplied to that site, so that was supplied through Banner. Look, a nice little small project, but what was a good result of this project was Defence Housing were able to showcase that project and promote that project, and promote some really good achievements in excellence in sustainability, green building, and environmental compliance. So it's just a nice project to show, coming from forest through to end use. This is another shot of our Tarpeena site. Many of you on the call might be aware that in recent times, Timberlink's announced our commitment to build a new product line at Tarpeena. It's a cross-laminated timber and glue-laminated timber line. It's the first combined line in Australia, and it'll be based, as you can see by the arrow, that's a Photoshop, it's not built yet. It's going to position right on our Tarpeena site. It's going to be it's a big investment. You can see on the left-hand side of the photo, that's our new sawmill line, our new log line. And you can see comparatively that the size of our new site. But most importantly, what we're trying to show you here is that this Timberlink are really committed to opening up new markets for timber and doing that with new products, and doing this responsibly and under the banner with our certification. So all the feedstock that will feed that plant and make those products will come out of the Tarpeena, predominantly out of the Tarpeena mill, some down the track potentially out of Bell Bay. But as we start in our early days, it'll be radiata pine from the Green Triangle region, all certified. Just incidentally, that project's still 2 years away. We're currently doing the civil works at the moment, so it's not here ready yet. But it's a really exciting thing. But when we made these decisions around a new product that we can make with our existing resource, it all got back to our certification and being able to carry this sustainability profile that we've built up. So this slide just reinforces our supply chain position, where we have our certified plantation pine supplied to Timberlink from our parent company, New Forest, and that in-feed stock that then comes out of the sawmill will then be fed into the CLT GLT plant. So this maintain and that will maintain our certification. We haven't got certification yet because our plant is not built, but we'll be applying for a scope of extension so we can carry both FSC and RW certification for both of those products. Our wood fibre feedstock already has those certifications. We have our electronic inventory management systems that are already in place. We'll positively manage any outsourced processing or warehousing that is required for those products will be under our certification, and this business will be subject to the same controls and audit program as our existing certification. So the message for us here is that hopefully this gives the market confidence that this sustainable credentials of wood in these products allows us to take it from the forest through our current processing and then into value-added engineered wood products that may well open up other benefits for builders and developers, pretty much in line with those Green Star initiatives. Lastly, from me, sustainability is really, really key to our business. Our products are sustainable. We believe we manufacture them sustainably well, but sustainability has become really important to our customers, really, really important. We have more conversations around sustainability with our customers now than we ever have. And being able to hold both those FSC and RW certifications sets us in good stead. It's important to call out that we've committed strongly to carbon reduction targets. In line with the Paris Agreement, we believe we're the first in our industry in Australia to do this, backed up and committed through science-based targets. We're tracking and reporting our carbon reductions each year, and we've made some good progress in the years we've been focused on it. We've achieved 27% reduction in Scope 1 and 2 emissions since our 2018 recording, and we're committed for a 53% reduction by 2030. I'd just like to call out that we do put out, just for the wider audience, we produce a sustainability report every year. In November, it's a couple of weeks away, the 2021 report, but the 2020 report and the 2019 and 2018 report are all on the Timberlink website. There's some really, really good information in there, not just on sustainability, but also sets out our certification, our chain of custody. So it's a really good document. I encourage everyone, if they're looking for more information, to go on our website and download. But with that, Wendy, that pretty much covers my presentation. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Simon, and to Mark, both. I'd like to open up the floor to some Q&A. If anybody would like to use the Q&A section, it is at the bottom of your screen. Please feel free to jump in and ask any questions you would like. But I would like to start the floor off with Mark. Could you please explain why there are two different types of certification? I find that a little bit confusing.
Well, I suppose it's free market. You know, FSC were probably the lead in getting things happening in the earlier 90s. And PEFC was effectively a European forest owners response to that. So you had a competing system. So they are direct competitors. But, you know, they provide a very similar outcome in terms of sustainability. I mean, they're different pathways, but effectively the same. So if you go through, for example, chain of custody is almost a mirror image, one for one. So they're very similar. They have a couple of both have slight different nuances, if you like, without boring with the detail. And forest management is, particularly in Australia, is quite an issue with Forest Stewardship Council and managed natural forest. So I don't want to labour that, but you know, we are able to certify our natural forests to PEFC. Doesn't mean it's a lesser standard. It's a very rigorous scientific standard that we have to achieve. So yeah, there are some larger landowners, particularly Sustainable Timber Tasmania, who are pursuing a forest stewardship certification of their natural forest estate. So we're all looking forward to that. Yep.
Thank you, Mark. Now, we do have another question from Rufus. He is asking, I guess, Simon, you might be able to answer this question. How is the auditing carried out and how rigorous is the process?
Yeah, can you hear me, Wendy?
Yes, very good.
Good. Okay, great. Yeah, look, really good question. As Mark touched on, I think, it is a rigorous process, and it does need to be. You know, I guess the luxury to a point of being a reasonable sized business is that we can afford to have, you know, really good focus internally on our internal auditing procedures, and it becomes part of doing business. Certainly, if you wanted to go through a FSC or a PEFC audit for the first time, it is quite a rigorous process. As Mark said, it's not incredibly difficult, but you have to have all your ducks in line, if you like. You have to be able to have all your systems in place. So ours is very, very big system control. If you can imagine, I mentioned it, I think, a couple of times in my about particularly our inventory management process. But you know, we get annually audited once a year, and perhaps Mark might like to talk a little bit more about what that audit process looks like and how long it takes. But you know, it's the, you know, for us it's really important, but you know, we're lucky enough to be able to have a team of people in our mills that are focused on you know, this is as being part of our day-to-day, you know, maintaining our systems and our efforts in this area to make that audit process a little bit more seamless. But maybe Mark could touch on a little bit more about the process itself. Mark, and perhaps throw to you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Simon. Yeah, well, we are developers rather than certification body people. So we assist industry. So we call ourselves friends of industry, but they're not the cops, the other guys. They are also friendly auditors. So our role tends to be building systems, and where a company likes to have the internal audit done at a bit of arm's length, we provide that for them so that we're not got managers' eyes and, you know, overlook things to get the job done. With chain of custody, you know, when we are managing a group which has got 30 disparate individual companies that, as I mentioned before, range from perhaps a guitar maker to a large sawmill providing the nation, we have to audit 100% of those companies every year. Where we're doing an individual company, again, it's an annual audit process. Depends where they are in terms of their maturity with certification. We might suggest to them that we do more than one audit a year just to make sure they're on track. And the external audit is done annually. With individuals, it's every year. With a group scheme that we manage, it's on a sample. So it would be once in the lifetime of the certificate. And with chain of custody, the certificates are 5 years. But there's a wild card. So for each sample, because we are strata, so we don't mix the little operators with the really big operators. So we have sampling strata. And within those strata, there's a wild card. So unfortunately, it might get done twice in a cycle. With forest management, operationally, we're auditing all the time. So operationally, we're auditing for safety, for environmental outcomes on a continuum. But then on top of that, we have a certification internal audit program, and that would be done once a year. And then we would produce a management review post that. So, you know, that's prior to an external audit. And again, an external audit for forest management will be done. That's done on a 9-monthly basis, so that there's a seasonality in it. If you just did it annually, you'd always land in the season that you started in. But by doing it 9-monthly, we end up doing a summer, an autumn, a winter, you know, so that we view the environment that's subject to the forest operation under different conditions. So that's on a 9-monthly cycle for a 3-year certificate period. And that's done every year. And each year under a surveillance audit, they'll be looking at different criteria. Some of it's always done. So the management system, the defined forest area, and the chain of custody are done every time we have an audit. But then the different criteria, biodiversity, soils and water, stakeholder engagement, that would be done on a rotational basis. So there we go.
All right, thank you, Mark. And sorry, just a continuation off that topic, I guess, how does the Australian system vary for anything else internationally?
We are lockstep with PEFC because our system is accredited by PEFC. Then there's a recognition globally. If we were just a standalone Australian system, it would be much harder for us to gain acceptance in international marketplaces. But because we have PEFC and also FSC, I mean, FSC is very well recognised, but because we have PEFC on the vast majority of our forests, you know, there's a global recognition of our forest products as coming from sustainably managed forests.
Great. All right, Simon, I might throw the next question back to you. Mick is asking, when do we expect the first CLT, GLT to be fabricated in and supplied in Australia? Is that something that you can?
Yeah, sure.
Touch on?
Thanks for the question, Nick. You were probably, from a total market angle, perhaps first, there's already people manufacturing. It's important to note. Mexlam Australia have been in the market since, I think, 2017, 18. They built the first plant, so they've been in the market. There's Crossland fabrication that's in Perth, and Cusp in Tasmania have done a really good job with some eucalyptus hardwood in their CLT range. So there is some players already in the market. So it's important to note that. Timberlink, however, we've got our plant under construction, and this time in 2 years' time, so the fourth quarter of 2023, October, November, December-ish, is planned for commercial production. So we're hoping, our plan is to have our facility built and running by April, May in 2023, and then we do our final commissioning and plant sign off and product and final product certification, and then be ready for commercial release to the market pretty much in 2 years' time, about this time in 2 years. So unfortunately, it's a while away. as with anything else, you do a lot of work to prepare business case to get these things up. And once we get the okay, we want them in and working as of tomorrow. But that's not the case. And it's probably interesting to know it's been a 6-year journey for us to go right through the process and from sort of concept stage to actually when we start producing. So it's a significant investment. We're really proud of it, but we're as the sales manager who's heading that up, I would love us to be ready now. But we've got to be a bit patient. But it's important to note we've actually, just for the architects and engineers, this is not an opportunity for a marketing exercise, I get. But in coming weeks, we're actually launching our first pieces of information around our. We've had some panels made up overseas, and we've tested those panels to give some early indication of what the performance criteria can be for structural, fire, acoustic. So we're about to release some of that information in the next few weeks. So we need to build up, but very long answer to your question, Nick. I'm sorry, but 2 years.
That sounds good. Thank you, Simon. And I guess just from a slight outsider, we do have a lot of people that plan and implement and design projects. What does the cost of this certification have on the timber cost for the actual project? Like if someone says, yes, I have to have certified wood, is the cost extremely higher? I'm not sure of the answer to that one.
I'll have first crack at it. Okay, well, we always advise our clients that there's no cost advantage, you will have to wear it. So it's a bit like if you've got the stud sheep farm, and you're going to be selling stud sheep, you'll get an early mover's advantage. And maybe there was some of that early on, but now it's mainstream, even though we're not, we haven't covered the whole field. But yeah, there are markets that I won't name, the large national chain stores that won't take your wood unless it's certified, and you won't get a premium for it. But it's a key to market entry. So unless we want to stay as with the greatest respect, bottom feeders, we need to have the credentials to be able to enter into markets and gain the sustainability recognition that our forest products deserve.
Sure, thank you. And some of the other questions that are coming in, there was talk of a Green Star certificate. How do we go about obtaining a Green Star certificate for a project? Simon, is that something, or Mark, you'd like to take it?
Probably Mark, I think. Sorry, Mark.
No, I can't answer that one. Sorry.
I'm guessing you guys talked about just keeping the chain of custody and maybe keeping all the records for the certified timber that comes through and into the project. Might be part of the Green Star certification. Well, guys, I'd probably like to start wrapping it up there. Simon and Mark, thank you so much for your efforts today. Thank you very much for educating us further on this topic. And we will wrap it up there. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks to you and Andrew for the opportunity. And you did a great job, Wendy. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, guys. Great to see you.
Thanks, Mark. Okay.
Thanks, everyone, for joining.
Now, guys, just to finish up before everyone does depart, the CPD questions were, what was the aim of the forestry certification? Name the 2 global forestry certification bodies operating within Australia, and what does the chain of custody give to the end user of the project? Just to let you know that we do have these webinars fortnightly. The next one will be held on Tuesday, the 23rd of November at 11 a.m. And the topic will be wood solutions for bushfire-prone areas. So please join us for that one as well. Also, if you do have some spare time and you are a little bit of a design geek like me and like to know how things are manufactured, please jump onto the Wood Solutions YouTube channel. They constantly update new and exciting functions of how things are created. So once again, guys, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you for both the speakers, and hopefully we'll see you for the next Wood Solutions seminar.